Cool. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to World Hoppers, collaborative channel where we talk all things books, different genres, a lot of fantasy, and all of the proceeds from ad revenue and merch sales goes to charity. And I think everyone here, we've been here before a time or two, so we don't need to introduce ourselves and whatnot. But yeah, today we are talking about a little check-in of goals and stats, how it's going for us this far through the year. So let's get into it. I have my first little inquiry, I guess, is just asking how we approach bookish goal setting. Like, has it changed for you over the years since being on BookTube? Different goals, like, yeah, just all of that. Because I definitely have changed with it over the years, and I've just become very loosey goosey. I'm just like, this will be a goal, I guess. And then if not, it's fine. Like, I don't really beat myself up about it too much. And I try not to set too many like restrictive, super specific goals always, I guess. So I don't know. I just kind of approach it like, let's see what I can do. Go from there.
Yeah.
Angela,
I mean, I've only been on BookTube for 2.5 years now, so I don't know if that's a long enough time to know if I've changed. I guess I know before BookTube, my main goal was whatever I put into Goodreads. I just like picked a number.
Yeah.
And like, would try and get there. And I guess being on BookTube, I will make some like minimal goals. Like this year, one of my goals is I wanted to read like an X number of books written by authors who do not live in the United States, were born and live in another country. Like a really strict, like pseudo challenging goal. Cause it's like one part of my stats where I'm like, I'm not actively reaching for these. So it's kind of, I make goals to help change my habits. And then normally once the habits are changed, the goals don't exist anymore. But I also don't beat myself up over it. So yeah,
that's fair.
I think that my goals have changed, not since I've been on BookTube, but since I started tracking my reading, which collaborates with the time period that I've been on BookTube. But like, I also had the same goal this year to read less US centered books, and it's actually going surprisingly easy. So I think that my goals are more so just making sure that my reading taste doesn't narrow too much, for a multitude of reasons. I'm a really heavy fantasy, especially like adult fantasy reader, but as much as I love it, I can still get burnt out. So my goals are centered around making sure that I don't consume too much of my favorite genre to the point where like I completely stop reading it. So I do have little goals that are like, oh, try to read some nonfictions or try to read some historical fictions, but they're never really high goals. And it's just to prevent me going into a slump, because I noticed that when I wasn't doing that, I would read so much fantasy and then I would go months without reading, and then read so much fantasy and then nothing. Yeah. So my goals are just centered around like the ebbs and flows of my reading and making sure that like I don't hit those really low periods where like I don't even want to touch a book.
Yeah. That's good.
I do, yeah. That's the part of why I try to be good about mixing up what I read, because I'm the same. Like, if left to my own devices, I'll just be like, all I want to read are mysteries, and then like 50 mysteries later, it's like, I'm done. I can't read anything else now. Yeah, I think as time has gone on, I've gotten a lot looser. I used to do like specific yearly TBRs, so like 20 books I want to read in 2020 kind of a thing, and I would also set like year-long challenges, and I've realized that like I'm too much of a mood reader for that. So yeah, I guess similar to what Angela was saying, I do try to set goals that like guide me towards what I'm wanting to do. So like I'd had a multi-year goal to get to the point where at least half of what I read was by or about someone not like me in a meaningful way. So like from a different country or a different religion or a different race or a different sexuality, like whatever. And now that I've done that, it doesn't feel like as much of a goal, because like year over year, it seems like I think I'm at like 55% for the year. So like I'm above where I set. So it doesn't feel like something I need to track as closely anymore. I don't know. Usually my goals are things like I want to read less. I think I read too much. And then it never seems to actually happen.
Well, and like the yearly challenges, I like setting them up, but they're also like, I mean, Shoshana and I have talked a little bit about it. Like TBRs don't stress me out. Like if I don't complete my TBR, it's not like a big deal. but it helps me focus. And I think part of it is I don't personally own a huge physical TBR. So making like yearly goals or lists are like, remember, you should take this out from the library, or you should actively look for it at your bookstore. And like, it like helps me go through the list of all the books I've put on my want to read list that everyone's recommended and be like, here are like the 10 to 20 I would really like to maybe pick up.
Yeah, that's kind of how I do like books I want to read like soon-ish. It's like, I guess it's a TBR, but it's very, very loose. Very like, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're on my radar right now, but like in a week they might not be, and I'll put them back on my shelves or whatever.
Yeah.
I kind of, we talked, I feel like, I feel like a few of us were talking about this, like having a diversity or variety goal, like whatever you want to call it. And I think that has changed for me too a little bit, because I was using it like similarly, like to just keep myself accountable and make sure I wasn't just, because again, especially like reading a lot of adult fantasy, it's like there's a lot of older straight white guys that are quite popular, and you know, nothing wrong with reading those if they sound jazzy, but like I want to make sure I'm not just reading those. And I think over the years, like once you make it like a goal, it's just kind of like becomes in the back of your head a little bit. So then it's like, it's still kind of a goal in your head, but you don't have like a set number or anything because you've gotten into the habit of it, like you were saying. Angela, do you guys all have goals like that, like this year?
I track it. I never stop tracking it.
Yeah. I've changed like how I track, like what I keep track of. I saw you doing that, Mara, of like, are they like me or not? And I was like, I like that because like in a meaningful way, like you were saying. Because I was initially keeping track of like all the author stuff, like identities and race, ethnicity, all this stuff, and like trying to keep track. And then I'm like, I don't feel like I need to like obsessively try to like do homework on these authors to find. And because
for me, it became tokenizing. Like when I was doing that a little bit, I was like, this feels a little tokenizing. So,
and I've seen it where like several times authors have had to like as far as queer identity, like basically come out prior to feeling comfortable, because everyone's like, well, you're straight writing this and that's bad. And then they're like, actually, I'm not, thanks. But like now, I'm keeping track mostly just of like, are they like me or not? And just always having it in the back of my head, like to make sure I'm not, like I said, just reading a bunch of straight white guys in adult fantasy. But it's getting easier and easier because marketing and publishing is doing more in that regard. I don't have a goal like that this year though, necessarily, like a hard and fast like number goal. I just have it like, I'll just always make sure you're reading more authors of color and queer identities and things like that. We kind of touched on this a little bit, like how strict we are with our goals.
Yeah,
I'm very not strict.
Like, well, so back to like the diversity thing, which Monet, did you want to say something?
Oh yeah, about the diversity. I don't think that I need to track or gear myself towards diverse books because of my reading taste, and what I like to see in books typically just leads me to diverse stories. But in terms of like variety, I have noticed on BookTube that there are certain book reviewers who only read one type of book for like the majority of the year. And I used to be one of those people. And I've noticed that it becomes like a comfort thing and like my enjoyment. I just simply like reading romances, so I'm going to read them. But then sometimes I might read something else or like a mystery. And I'm like, oh, my takeaway, my character development, my mental development. It's like, oh, this is actually what reading is supposed to be about, enjoyment, but also like, expanding your mind. That like gear me as my variety goes, because I'm like, this is not something I would normally pick up, and I'm not really reading this for entertainment and comfort purposes, but like I just read What My Bones Know, and it's not a book that I think I was like the target audience for, but my takeaway was like, wow, this is what happens when I read outside of like my usual genre. So I think that I like not being specifically like one book reviewer, and like I think I became overwhelmed when I would get arcs, and sometimes they're, unsolicited. They're like, okay, this is something that Monet typically types to read, so like, let's just send her all these books. And then I'm like, okay, I actually kind of want something different. Like, can I get the arc of that book?
And like for me, what's ended up happening, and like I think I have to like correct for again. So the reason I don't have a number goal for diversity anymore. I think I like to keep my representation of authors of color at around 50%. I don't keep track of if they're LGBTQ because it's really hard to tell who is or isn't, and I don't want to have to like scour someone's Twitter to know like what their situation is. It just like, I don't know. It feels uncomfortable for me.
Yes.
I usually take like a read through their bio on the back of the book, and if it's there, then I say that it's there, and if it's not, I'm not digging in further.
But so there's that. But then now my issue, so I used to, like, my diversity used to be atrocious like 3 years ago. My entire shelf was whatever you could buy at your standard Barnes and Noble or Books A Million in the Midwest, which is like very white guy oriented. That's what they put on their shelves. And then now only 30% or 33% of what I read are by men. Like, and I read only adult SFF primarily. Like, and so I'm trying to like get that more equal. And then
that, Angela, I am the same. I have struggled since I started reading. So in 2014, I started reading romance and stopped reading theology. And it used to be I would have like 15% of books by women, 85 by men, and it's the opposite now. Like, I'm trying to like get more men in the mix. I'm like, I got to do better about like listening to men.
Right? You need like all the voices. So I'm working on that, and then I don't have an official goal, but I do keep an eye on my variety stats for genres because I am happier when for me it's more like I love science fiction, but there are more fantasy series. So just generally, I spend more time reading fantasy because I like finishing series. I do a pretty good job of marathoning them in like a reasonable time.
You're better than I am.
Well, it's who I've always been as like a reader. Like before BookTube, I used to just read a series till it was done and then pick the next author or book, like that sort of thing. But now, if I read an equal number in a month, those are like my best months. But it's hard, so I have to like keep an eye, and like they're actually almost 50-50 this year, and I'm like, it wasn't a goal, but it's like exciting to me.
Yeah.
I just noticed that like I feel like I'm burnt out on reading Greek mythology and like Greek retellings. And I was getting ready to be like, I'm going on a hiatus, no more Trojan War books. But then a voice in the back of my head was like, the last 10 books you've read about the Trojan War were all written by women. So now I'm like slightly interested to see, well, maybe before I quit, let me try at least one Trojan War book written by a man, which is also weird because of course we want to read about books from a woman's point of view, but it's not working for me. So I think that sometimes if you are tracking your reading taste, you can kind of be like, you know, the last science fiction books I read I didn't like, they were all space operas. So maybe stay with science fiction, read another science fiction, but move away from space operas. And so I think it's nice to know before you quit on a genre or a trope completely to try to find another person to tell the story, to tell the same story, but like from their way.
That's what, like, I basically only read fantasy. I mean, for the most part, it's like 70 to 80% fantasy, mostly adult. But I try to do that, like, not like if I read a bunch of just like kind of European centered settings, worlds, cultures in a row, I can get kind of burnt out. So then I'm like, all right, I need to read some like Middle Eastern, North African, Asian inspired, like the world, the culture, like just something a little different from that to change it up a little bit, like still in fantasy, but different story, a different voice.
I think that's people can be critical of the concept of tracking stats of any kind with books, of like, it's a hobby, it's supposed to be just for fun. I'm a nerd and I enjoy my stats, so it is fun for me to track that. But the upside is it does foster, I think, more just like awareness, and like you can use that to your own. So like if I go back and realize, like, you know, the last 5, I don't know, mysteries with a PI detective, I've given like a 2-star to. Okay, maybe this is just not a trope I like. Or I didn't think about it, but now that I'm looking, all I've read are sci-fi romances for the last 2 weeks. Maybe I should lay off, you know, an abduction story and move on.
Am I in a slump like for reading, or like am I in a slump for reading this?
Type of story.
So I think it's all about just like getting to know yourself better as a reader, I feel like.
It just helps, like Angela said, like building the habit, right? It's like not necessarily to like nitpick every single little thing and be like, I have to get exactly this % all the time of whatever, but like just to have that kind of goal and just build that habit. So then it becomes habit.
And if you track your stats for long enough, you also just get to see interesting trends. Like
I have 10 years of data
over the years,
and it's so exciting.
Which again, maybe not everyone finds that fun, but I think it's really interesting.
I do.
Yeah. I think a lot more people do than like we realize, because like I don't know, stats videos, like anytime I do like my end of the year or videos where I'm showing my like spreadsheets I use, people are like, can I get that? Like, oh my God, I love spreadsheets.
Yeah,
well, I'd say, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, like, they don't get the best views for me, but they do have very active commenters who like really like it. And like you said, want the stat sheet and stuff like that. So on my channel, they perform okay, but not amazing.
I mean, I don't know how they perform, I guess.
Yeah, I get like 8 comments being like, I love this. This is great. And then I always get at least 2 comments of like, nobody cares. Why are you doing this? And I'm like, literally just look in the comments. I'm not like somebody cares. You may not care, but somebody cares. Somebody likes this.
Sometimes people forget that like we started a booktube channel so that we could talk about books that we read, and like you know, I think sometimes they're like, oh, this
I care
for me. Oh, wait a minute, no. This is actually my channel.
Like, I don't mind people saying like, oh, this isn't like some, you know, if it's phrased nicely, I don't, you know, of like, oh, this isn't my favorite. Like, if you could timestamp this so I can skip it, I'd appreciate it. Something like that. That's fine. But people will be like, nobody cares. And it always just, that gets to me because I'm like, literally just look at the other comments. Like demonstrably somebody cares.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Pet peeve.
Oh yeah. I mean, I also like, you're more gracious if someone, you know, being like, oh, it's okay if they ask me for a timestamp. You can just scrub through it's very obvious when stats are done.
I don't love it, but I at least can like appreciate that they're trying to be polite about providing feedback.
I mean, fair. I mean, I put timestamps in videos where I think it makes sense, but it's just like, it's also just really easy to like just scrub through till you see a book cover you care about, or like.
I appreciate channels like yours, Mara, where like you actually take into consideration everyone's feelings, because like mine is not a democracy. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I already put so many hours into this. You're getting what it's gotten. Like,
you know what? I need to limit my people pleasing. I probably could learn from you guys, because I'm like, I'm trying to make everyone happy, but if the internet has taught me anything, that is literally impossible. So
my comment section like a suggestion box, but it's still a comment section. It's actually not a suggestion box.
I just tend not to, like, I had someone one time tell me that the audio was weird on my video, and I like listened back and I'm like, I think your computer speakers are weird because it sounds completely normal, but I just like didn't respond. I'm just like, whatever.
Sorry, now I can pay by my feet.
I will pay attention to nothing now. All I'll do is stare at the kitty.
Oh, so fluffy. Sorry, the kitty's so cute.
He's looking like he thinks you guys are real, but he doesn't think you're real. You have no smells.
He's just staring.
He's sitting there so politely.
I meant to click on this one. This is kind of the general. Everybody's got this usually, I feel like, right? Pages read, books read for a year, like having a goal of that. I'm curious how, if you do, has it changed since being on BookTube?
It's my least interesting goal.
Yeah, pages goal is a lot. That's a lot, especially like as adult science fiction readers. Like, what would even be our goal? Like, we're reading 900.
I have no idea. I don't track that, so I literally couldn't tell you.
So what I do is like my minimum, and it's just truly just to make sure I'm reading as much as I like would like to read if I didn't have a BookTube channel, which is like 100 pages a day, you know, times 365. That's like my pages goal for the year, because like that means I'm actively reading at a pace I would like to. I almost always surpass that, but like I don't want to feel like negatively if suddenly other hobbies took over or whatever. So that's how I'm trying to read less. Goal.
So I'm like, I don't know. I think I set my Goodreads at 200 books every year. I know I'll hit that, and I'm trying to read less than 200 books, and it's just not going well for me. But I
the opposite problem of everybody else.
Well, because I'm just
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say that I've noticed that when people are just short of their goal, especially if they have a book goal, they're like, let me read some graphic novels or some poems or something, like something in verse. But I imagine how that works for pages, because like if you have a goal for pages that you're not making, then like a manga isn't going to cut it for you. You're going to need to like
it's like, where's Leviathan Wakes, where's Name of the Wind
or something like that. So and then like does that count for audiobooks? Like, are these pages that you actually want to read with your eyes, or like can you listen to it? There's just, I need to know. I need someone who has a pages goal to explain to me.
Well, here, I can tell you mine, I guess. So audiobooks are reading. Audiobooks are reading. Yes. But I do like tracking. So I typically listen to audiobooks while doing other things. It's normally like with other activities. So I wanted a way of tracking how much I'm actually just sitting down and reading is the 100% activity I'm doing. And so that's when I separate out the pages of just pages I have physically read or I have immersion read or whatever. Yeah. And so that's usually my like 100 pages a day goal, is for time that I've actively only been reading. It wasn't just with something else, because I just wanted to know how much time am I allocating to this activity. Yeah. But that's the only reason.
People who do spreadsheets, if you're reading and listening as you go, do you mark it as audio or do you mark it as physical? If you did both.
So I have a column that's like, did I read any of this in audio? Yes,
okay.
No.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
That makes sense.
For me, it depends on how much. Like if I started reading it physically, but then I finished the last 80% audio, then it was 100. It was basically an audio read. Like that happened with me with Parable of the Sower recently. I read like the first 2 chapters with my eyes and then switched to doing a puzzle in the audiobook. So
gotcha.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. When I first joined BookTube, because the first like year I read like 120 books or something. And then next year I read like 100, a little over 100, I think. And then it's gone down since then. I just set my goal at 50 because I'm like, I know I'm going to read 50. And even when I set it higher, like I don't care if I don't meet my goal. I just change my goals. If I'm not meeting my goal, like I have like books to read in a year and like specific books. But then if I like DNF it, or it's a book that I'm like, actually, I don't want to read this anymore, I just delete it from the list.
No, I think my goal is just to put a dent in my unread TBR. It's not, so read 50 books. It's like, get 50 books off of your unread shelf and you're doing great.
Yeah. I have one this year of like reading at least 30 books that I had at the start of the year, books that I owned on because I've added to that. But of those books, the 104 books that I had at the beginning of the year, to read at least 30 of them, or pick up to like get through either
100 books unread on your shelf.
Yeah, 104.
You're doing great. You're doing amazing.
Not that many.
I remember everyone did those unread videos, and it was a lot. Like I see people unread videos. My unread video was like 594.
Yeah.
This entire shelf is unread. Like that whole none of those are read.
So I had a goal like that too, mainly because I was moving, but also because I actually like my physical TBR got to like 30 some books, so I was getting overwhelmed. So I wanted to read like half of them, and I actually have read most of them because I was moving, and I'm like, I need to get rid of these books. Yeah.
I will say my TBR, my physical TBR, has exploded since I bought this house, and I'm like, because with the prices going up, like, where am I gonna go? So like, it's like, well, I guess I'm living here until I don't live in Nashville anymore. So I'm like nested fully. So I'm like, sure, like I've got room for all. I haven't even remotely maxed out my shelf potential in this house yet, so like let's go.
Those are my life goals, by the way. I'm not pro low physical TBR. I just live in apartments. The minute I have Mara's situation, it's all
moving
over.
Books is miserable. Like they're so heavy, they're so annoying to try to move. So yes, I
watched everyone's videos when they uploaded like the unread TBR, and like the editing must have been horrible when you have like 700 unread books.
It is. Yes.
I'm like, the editing sounds terrible. I want to watch you do it, but like I won't be doing it.
Yeah. I won't even do it my 100
years ago. Yeah, I did one 2 years ago, and it's time to do a new one. That's like on my list of things I'm supposed to do this month, and I like keep putting it off because
it would take me months to edit that video. I would just keep walking away.
Doing a bookshelf tour, I did that this year. I did a bookshelf tour where I showed every individual book. Nightmare fuel.
Yeah, people always want those, and I'm like, I don't want to film this. My bookshelf changes every other week. The minute I get a new book, it changes. Like it's not the same. It's not a static situation. But also, how I don't like watching bookshelf tours, so maybe I just don't know what people like. But I'm just like, you just want me to pull off books and be like, these are the books that are here.
They love it.
Yeah, there's some videos where they just kind of like put the camera and like they go like slow pan. Yeah. But people prefer the videos where like you pull and like center frame each book. And
nightmare.
I want to give them the lazy version when I move.
It took hours to film, and then editing. I was just like, this is Stupid. Never again.
I don't mind the editing because I can put an audiobook. It's like not hard editing. It just is tedious. So like I put like an audiobook on and listen. I've done a couple of them and they're like, yeah, it's
Yeah, I normally
people
just do
like
the
them, but-
overview. Like, here's my shelves, this bookcase, and here's some book. This is the genre that's on this shelf. That's what I normally do, and will be doing in the future for any additional bookshelf tours.
Well, I like.
Yeah.
So Leanna started her journey making bookshelf tours, and I liked how she's just decided I'm going to do like 5 parts to this, and then she because I don't like knowing what books are on the shelf. I want to know why that book's on your shelf, which is a much longer process, and that's what she's doing. And so like, oh, I like that because you're just talking about all these books and why they exist here.
Yeah.
I'm a hoarder. That's kind of the bottom line.
Yeah,
that's why they're there.
I'm terrible at like researching. Like I'm a person that literally, if you take the cover and sleeve and like hide it, I will still crack it open. Like I don't read synopsis. I don't look up authors. So before I started tracking my books, I could not even tell you if I read from LGBT or like a person of color because I've gotten into. I'm not gonna say I've gotten into trouble, but there were so many books that I had read before I was a part of the book community, and then I joined, and they're like, "This book is terrible, awful representation." I'm like, "Oh, I bought it. I thought it was okay, you know, like I read it because I don't do
I didn't know
research." So I think that that's probably what changed the most about being on the book community is that I do try to be a little more cautious, but sometimes I don't review every book I've read because I do love just going to the library and grabbing one and opening it. I don't like the extra work of having to research a person's whole life story. So I would hate to be like, oh, I bought this and it was cool and I loved it. And they're like, actually, that author's a terrible person. I'm like, oh, okay.
I had to do that to my friend recently because they read the Lauren Ho book. And I'm like, no. And really liked it. Like really liked the book. And I'm like, I'm sure it's not actually a horror.
I heard that it was an actually good quality book. That's part of why her shenanigans were such a shame. But, yeah.
I'm not gonna put on the live what book I've read that I feel like was the most problematic that I didn't hate, but I'll put it in the chat.
I was gonna say put it in the private chat.
I liked it.
Yeah.
But I would never tell anyone publicly that I read that.
Well, sometimes like I'll hold up a book and people are like, did you know that this person, I don't know, disliked a tweet or something? And I'm like, no, I did not know that. And I feel like that's not something I should have to worry about. Like
Well, no, I like your controversial authors video and like because it's very similar to how I go through. And it's like, I never like say I'll never read a book by anyone for anything, but like there is a priority list and you can be bumped down the priority list.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
one of my sisters bought me a book and they considered it as attached something that I wish. And I was like, oh, this is a fantasy book. I'm so excited. And I showed it to my friends on Zoom and they're like, that author sexually assaulted B.E. Schwab. And I was just like, I was excited to receive a book, but like, thank God I didn't like open it.
I think I know which book you're talking about.
Is that the one? I'm trying to remember which one of those that was.
It's the one. It's a white cover with yellow or red, blue accents. 10 books.
Arrows or 10. Yeah, and I was like, oh, like someone sent me a free book, and like I tried to figure out how to say thank you without like, look, I got a problem. Yeah, I got a problematic book for free.
People also really like those books too, and that's what's always the struggle is when it is like a good book, but the author just decided to show how trash they are. Yes, that's another one that a lot of people like, but is like,
that's one that my work book club was like, oh wow, we're reading this. Like, you love books, and this is the one we're gonna read. And I was like, I'm good.
Yeah, I had no idea. Like, I can't read that. A, because I don't want to, but B, because like I would never hear the end of it. So like, no, I can't read that. You guys have fun.
They had no idea. Like, they're like, what?
The world that doesn't know and doesn't care.
Yeah.
But you're part of the book community, so you're like, I would be canceled. But like, this is an environment where like no one really cares, and they still have like Harry Potter reading groups every year, and it's like I can't participate.
I'm not gonna do that.
I can't tell anyone I participated.
I'm not gonna be a part of that. Thank you. Oh, that's so funny. That book, everybody was.
I mean, they put some serious money behind that book. So like,
campaign. I mean, in hindsight, I know now. Like, I get the problematic, but I went 6 months of my life thinking that was a good book until I joined the book.
And I still see people who like pick it up to read it, and I sometimes wonder if I should tell them. But I'm also like, it's also just a book. Like, it's horrible, like how it gets more gets more time than like other material that actually goes into those topics.
Like, walking up to someone like,
Publishing.
just so you know, the book you're reading is horrible, and like
Yeah.
ruining
Just so
their
you know, you're
entire.
a bad person because you are
At a
reading this book.
bookstore.
Especially since, like, even though it's not a good book, the one we're also talking about this book because we all know no one on the internet right now.
Yeah,
knows
Yeah,
about
we're
it.
binge booking this one.
Like,
so
I'm just
annoyed
saying,
the
this is
comments.
the type of book that like makes people realize there is a problem societally. It's just like
Exactly.
it's their entryway, so it's also
Yeah.
hard because it's like
unfortunate that that's like,
it's like
maybe their
it's
only...
bad for you, but it's at least like got a vegetable in it. Like
Yeah. Well, or like white fragility. Like I know that there's a lot of critiques of that as
Yes.
like a
it's not for anybody.
it's for a
except
very
white
specific
people,
audience, and it
a
was
very specific group of white people.
Yes, but it was fascinating because I'm one of the co-leads of our diversity and inclusion committee for my work, and there was a guy who was like he was like, I couldn't even get past the first page because she was like acting like I have to be sad that I'm white, and I'm like,
oh my God.
I think that I would encourage you to consider continue reading, because I think that feeling you're describing is a lot of what the book is about.
It's in the title, sir.
It's in the title.
I was trying to be, like polite because
Yeah.
we're at work, but I was like, I would encourage you to continue reading. But it was just such a good reminder because I know on the bookish internet people are like, that book is awful, and I'm like, for some people that book is like a big step for them.
That book was very self-aware about what it was trying to be. I think it met its project pretty on the nose.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. I'm like, man, my little hometown, little podunk, 99.9% white people who've never been that far outside of town, like, a lot of people there should read this book. And it's the entryway that they would need, unfortunately. But
we're really off topic. Where do you want
I was gonna say,
I know.
sorry.
It always happens. It always happens.
My problematic taste.
It always happens. It's fine. I'm curious because people always, I think, are curious about this. If we have buying or spending goals or like limitations or anything like that.
This year I have a restriction. But not because of the dollar amount. It's because of my unread TBR.
Yeah, very that. Yeah.
I do have a limit on how many books that I'm allowing myself to purchase. But if I'm buying a book that I've already read on audio, I've already read like getting from the library, and I just really enjoy, then I'm totally free. But I'm being cautious about buying books that are going on top of my never-ending TBR. So it's not a budget thing. It's just more of I have a problem. It might even be an addiction to buying books. So.
Hi, Monet. This is a safe space where this is a recovery group. Yeah, no, I thankfully, because of YouTube, I don't really have to have a budget anymore. Like I just have sort of said like whatever I make from YouTube is my budget, and like even I couldn't buy that many books in a month probably. Like so not that, I mean, that makes it sound like I'm making thousands of dollars. I'm not, but my book budget used to be like $50 to $100 a month, and I definitely make that on YouTube. So, but it is kind of what you're saying, Monet. Like this year I've been trying to make it so that I'm reading more from my TBR than I'm bringing in every month. So we've been doing a pretty good job so far, but it will be the first time that number has ever been negative. Let me see if I can find like the worst month I ever did. But like once I brought in 50 books because there was an ebook sale and I went ham.
Do ebooks really count though?
I count.
Yeah, I differentiate. I keep track of like, if I purchase audiobooks or if I purchase ebooks.
Me too.
But I notate them that they're like ebook or audiobook, and then I keep track of like physical books added to my like shelves.
Yeah, this is I keep them, my total numbers are all together, but I keep track of the format in the spreadsheet. Yeah. What was my worst month?
I unhaul a fair amount too, and I like subtract that from like, this is how many books I brought in, but then subtract from that the unhaul. So like this year I've added 29 physical books to my shelves. After I've bought more than that, but like I've unhauled a fair amount.
Yeah, gotcha.
I'm at net -10 so far for the year. My TBR is 10 books less than it was at the beginning.
Oh, man.
Wow, that's gold medal.
That is good.
Literally
It
a
doesn't
first.
sound that great to anyone watching, but that's great.
That's good.
That's
yeah.
amazing. You're lucky if you keep a net zero. Like that's phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm looking. My worst year, I brought in 297 books. That was the year of the ebook sale. Yeah, it was bad.
That's a lot.
My goal I set was like just to like have it in my head of a spend goal of 500, and yes, we have surpassed that for the year. Yes,
I would have blown through that.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I'll do that. Yeah,
because an average paperback these days is $16 to $20.
Well, I do also
outrageous.
It's outrageous. I don't like that we live in this
Some
time.
books, like the new ones that are recently coming out, like I noticed that they used to be 26 or 28, but now they're like $32, $34, and I'm like,
crazy.
This inflation on books.
As much as I can, because the local bookstores, like I can get store credit, so I get a decent amount of that. Not a lot, but I get a decent amount of that. So like, I count it as like, oh, I'm buying it, but like some of it was store credit. So that's
I go to the used bookstore too. That helps, but
yeah.
I get it.
So for me, how I got back into reading again was using the library. Like I always had access to city libraries. Like I've only ever lived in metropolis-like areas, which means you have like a huge selection almost always. And reading from the library with a due date actually made me read books in like a reasonable amount of time. Like before that, you know,
the library system has like forever due dates. There's no fees anymore.
My type A mind is like, oh, it's due in 2 weeks. I will finish. Like
I think the
my
library is 3 weeks, and you can renew like 5 times.
My library automatically renews. Like you get 3 weeks, and it automatically renews 5 times. So I'm like, I don't know why you told me that.
What is this paradise you're living?
It does.
Well, regardless, what they're trying to say is that this
it's
turned
been
me
2
into
weeks. Girl, get it back to us. Like it is off my ebook reader.
Yeah, I was about to say, well, so I always keep my ebook reader in airplane mode unless I'm downloading a new library book, because I do put them in airplane mode jail if I have too many, because the pandemic did that to me. I used to be on time, and then the pandemic, I downloaded like 20 ebooks from the library at once, and I've never recovered. And I also run my local book club, and they give me $50 a month to spend at this really good bookstore, and then publishers send me books. So like I get new books, but I have spent $0 on these books.
Nice.
I've started showing that in my monthly stats to people, like what percentage of books I had to pay for that reason. Like I think that it can come across like, you know, you just have endless money to spend on books, but a lot of it is I get so many arcs for free at this point. I'm a library queen.
Yeah.
You know,
like I have an in with Tor now. I can get anything I want from Tor. You know how nice that is?
I was going to say, like having a direct connection with the publishing company that puts out majority of the books you read, like me and Orbit, we're best.
I need that connection with Orbit. Like, I want that Orbit connection so bad.
Well, Berkeley put me on their auto approve, and like that's been very dangerous for me for arcs. I'm just like, sure, I'll read that.
I did not buy, and I'm lucky. Like Rage of Dragons, I didn't pay for. I got those both. A Radical Act of Free Magic. There's like they just constantly. I'm like, thank you so much because you're saving.
Thank you for blessing me.
You're saving me so much
want
money.
these blessings. I've got no ins with any publishers, but I also don't
the
try.
Justice of Kings, I don't know what to got.
I got lucky on the
one. In the hardback, it's pretty good.
Well, and like I remember my first time ever requesting a physical copy, because I used to only do e-arcs or whatever, but like I was reading Goliath, and I really wanted to see Goliath in person before my review because it was a really weird format for the ebook, and I just wanted to like know how it'd be different before doing my review. And I knew they had finished copies, so I sent an email, and then from that moment on, I've been on like all of the email lists.
Yeah.
I don't even have to ask for arcs anymore from them because they just send me the widgets all the time in their monthly newsletter. And like, I cannot read all of your books. It's not happening.
There is a publishing company that I think really doesn't like me, but I'm like, we're gonna be besties. I'm gonna keep you.
I want Saga Press to know I exist. Saga Press, I think, does amazing things, but
yeah, they've started reaching out to me on some of theirs, which thankfully, because that's Rebecca Roanhorse, so I'm like,
yeah,
like they sent me the Tread of Angels. I think I'm gonna read that this weekend.
They also do Grace of Kings, like the book, the Dandelion Dynasty and stuff.
Saga does.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't have I don't read a lot of I don't read a lot of YA, and so a lot of the books that I read don't come from Simon Team. But like on Instagram, when they send out their marketing packages, sometimes I'm like tempted to reach out, but I'm like, I actually am not going to read these books. But the packages just look so good.
I know.
I love it.
Harper Voyager has been coming interesting too. I want them to know I exist. But
Yeah, they've had some good stuff. I just did I think that they collaborated with Avon in some of their marketing for the newest Alona Andrews series, which I'm glad because it's a really interesting urban fantasy world, and I think people might not pick it up because it is also a romance. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah. That's
We're
another
also
thing.
topic
Before
again.
BookTube, did I look at publishers? No. And I only think I started looking because I just wanted to know how to get free books. Like, I don't even think I would have cared.
I still don't really look. Like, I have no idea most of the time. Unless I hear other people saying it, then I'm like, oh.
I also
nice.
just know that
Like
Orbit
major
refuses to do
publishers?
like hardbacks, and they rarely do hardbacks, and it drives me crazy.
Orbit
I don't
rarely
know.
does hardbacks. Rarely.
Yeah.
They
I think it
even like for a
started as, like-
well-established author, they still don't do hardbacks.
But like, but then randomly a debut author gets a hardback, and like, because Andrea Stewart, I mean, I like The Bone Shard Daughter, but that's a debut book, and it got a hardback.
I
and I'm
was
like,
surprised that she got in hardback, and like
I
John
think it's because
Gwynn is
Barnes
still
and
sitting
Noble
there
had
in
like a
paperback.
deal.
Oh, well, and I think didn't Orbit start as one of those like mass market? Like I'm thinking like Ace and a couple of those that started specifically with mass market. So maybe that's
I think they try to keep it affordable because like Tor will put out an adult hardcover and like it'll be $34 freaking dollars. So I think Orbit is still trying to like be price cautious.
Sure, but I just want an option to buy Jemison in hardback. Is that so hard?
Apparently.
That is a crime that she does not have.
Like I don't want to spend $1,000 on Subterranean Press. I just want the normal covers in hardback.
I had to get my Son of the Storm hardback. I think it was like a special. I don't remember. It was like some other company did it.
It wasn't from Orbit.
Yeah, it was like a box.
And so I'm going to the UK this summer, so I kind of want to go look and see if they have a hard cover of the 5th season.
They don't.
Like, I don't know if they do or not. I don't know who publishes them over there.
They rarely get hardcovers we don't get. We will frequently get hardcovers they don't get.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen a hardcover of the 5th season. 100,000 Kingdoms.
There was one time, it wasn't Subterranean, but a different company made hardcovers of just the normal dust jacket, but they cost like $700 on eBay. It was a limiting.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's pure crazy talk.
It's horrible for how well selling it is. Like,
yeah,
you would.
Well, I got it for The City We Became and the newest one that's coming out for that duology. They're in hardcovers.
Yeah, that makes me happy, especially because those covers are cool because they reflect odd in the light. Like they're also like an interesting experience in person, which is cool.
Yeah, I just got the box set of the Broken Earth trilogy. And it's so janky. Like, it's just very... like, I was like, oh, okay, cool. They did, like, a box set. Like, this will be nice. And it's like...
It's a really weird paper texture. And, like, it's not a quality book. They're easy to hurt.
She deserves better.
Yeah.
That's our bottom line. We're not trying to hate on the publisher. We're just saying that NK deserves
Jemison deserves better.
I don't even love that series, and I only read the first book, and I don't know if I'll ever read it, but I agree because I know it's very popular and well loved. So it's like
that's
very
okay. You can just be on the hype chain
your
with
allyship.
us.
Yes, I'm a cheerleader on your hype chain.
Yeah.
Hype train. Like, yeah, woohoo.
I'm just glad Mara finally joined.
I've read all the books. My favorite series is actually the 100,000 Kingdoms. So
that one,
I still want to try that one.
Yeah,
I still want to try that.
I think you should cut your losses. You're just gonna keep making me sad.
Listen, I might like it. I've heard people say I might. But yeah, the Dream Blood duology, no.
I really don't think you're going to love it that much. I think you might like it.
But maybe
I
I'll
don't
like
think
it.
I
Maybe
am
I won't be
guessing
enough
a 3.25 star rating on the first one. We'll see if I'm right, but that is my guess.
We will see. Oh, man.
Could make a whole video of guessing Joshana's rating on books because it's a quarter star, so you have like a whole...
None are ever going to be 5. Hardly ever.
No, we've already read several books, and Joshana will like it and then give it 3 stars, or like it and it's like 3.75. And I'm like, I thought we were having a good time.
No, I was, but
3.75 is high for me. That's like
5 is an all-time favorite for me.
I liked it.
No,
That's
you're
like,
way
I
more
really
generous
liked
though,
it.
Mara. Like you'll give things 4s way more often than Joshana
I
will.
have like a sacred rating, Mara, for you. Like 5 is like the greatest.
Yeah, 5 is like, this is an all-time favorite book. 4.5 is a favorite of the year.
The
Wow,
only book
I think-
I've given 5 stars to this year has been The Final Strife. That's the only one.
I think I can give an objective 5. So like it won't be my favorite, but like if I'm being objective, like this book was actually really good and I could see how someone would love it. So like the only thing I didn't like is I didn't like it. So that's like where I really go.
No, I have to enjoy a book to give it a 5. I will upgrade my ratings if I have that thought where I'm like, I'm having issues, but the book, you know, like if I was rating purely on my enjoyment, it would be a 2.5. But actually, I think it accomplished what it wanted to do, so it's a 3, and it can live there.
That's why I very
think my
rarely
reviews
give
are
a
very much like that.
Yeah, I rarely give a straight up 1 star. I usually will end up giving a 1.5 of like, I don't want to say that this is a 1 star because I feel like that's me saying like, I am like offended by this book. I hate it. I don't see how anybody could like it. And 1.5 is like, I don't like this.
I strongly
but like, I'm giving
don't
it to you
enjoy
that
its
somebody
existence.
could.
If I give a book 1 star, I hate it, and I will stand by it in the court of law, defending that that book is terrible.
I rarely do that because usually I'll just DNF it.
I'll DNF
but
it
like,
usually, yeah.
But I did
when
have.
I gave House of Sky and Breath 1 star, you guys should have seen my Instagram inbox. Everyone was losing their mind, and I'm like, that book.
What did you give 1 star to?
House of Sky and Breath.
Oh yeah, me too. Have done that at this point.
Me too. If I'm given a 1 star, I've got an hour-long rant review coming.
And like people are like, it can't be that bad, and then I see 2-star ratings for the rest. Like because I read it kind of early, so like everyone gave 2 and 2.5 stars, and I'm like, you guys are being great. That was a 1-star book.
For sure, a 1 star.
I just love Sarah J. Maas. Like if you're a Sarah stan, then maybe you gave it a 3. I don't understand how that book got 5 stars.
I mean, didn't Bethany give it like a 4 or 5?
She started with like a 4.5 and had a good time, but she like read it in 2 days. I think that book's draining if you take longer with it because you're like, what is happening? Like it takes so long, but I think all the boring parts, the bad pacing for her only lasted for like 2 hours. And I think that's just a very different experience.
Peru's Project did a vlog on it, and I think she gave it 2 stars. And you could tell in the vlog she was excited, and like it just constantly every update got more depressing.
Yeah, Reagan at Peru's Project
still reading
her vlog on that. I was just like, I feel so seen. These are all my complaints. Although I didn't give it 1 star because it still was like
politically
readable.
correct when she critiques books, and so that was the first like really like raw honesty video that I've seen from Reagan in a while. And like she even said in the video that like usually I'm not this harsh on books, but
she was trying so hard to be positive for so long until she just couldn't anymore.
I do love vlogs like that though, where somebody is like being slowly drained of their will to live and reading the book. It's
very much like that. And like
it's very satisfying.
That would have been if I had vlogged it. That would have been me because like I was sending Ingrid and Roger all these Voxer messages, just like. And I was pissed, like, right from the get-go. And they were both kind of like, I mean, it's okay. And then slowly they started being like, yeah, no, I'm mad as well. Like,
you gotta watch the vlog because Reagan is, like, pausing and, like, you see her, like, really trying to think of words.
Yeah. Well, because she knows how many people are going to see the video, and she really doesn't probably want the attack.
Or to be
well,
like...
and also, I take, like, I'm always aware that when I'm saying I don't like a book, there are some contingent of people who are going to take my word for it without looking at it further. So like I want to be fair. Like if I don't like a book, I want to be honest and fair about it. But like at some point it's like, no, this was bad.
I had literally nothing good to say about that book.
My worst of the year.
I put a warning at the start of the video, like heads up. I'm just complaining. There's no positive.
Yeah, a disclaimer of like, there's nothing positive being said in this video. But no, my worst of the year, I don't think any authors should watch. Like, they tell authors to stay off Goodreads or don't. Like, if you're an author, don't watch this video because like, I did not.
Remember when they all dogpiled on Gavin about his worst of the year of like, in this year of pandemic, how dare you do this? And it's like, literally, that's what we do. We do this every year.
Everyone does it.
There are always best and worst of the year lists for every media. Always.
Yeah.
Like and they always perform so well. So everyone can get off their high horses and move on.
People love negative.
It's ironic because like Quarter Silver Flames was on my worst of the year last year, and like Sarah's coming back for a 2-peat because
you might want to stop reading her. I don't think her new stuff's for you.
Yeah.
I don't think it is for me either. So I'm like, I'm not doing this again. But Sarah's gonna be back for the second time.
A Court of Silver Flames, except for like I hate when she pretends that there are stakes, because we should all just know there are no stakes in a Sarah J. Maas book. Like,
she didn't even pretend that there were stakes in Sky and Breath. She didn't even pretend.
Well, and then she did it in a gross way. It's like, why are we? The reproductive consent plot arc is trash.
Yeah.
I don't think any type of like that trope could be worse than like what was in Twilight. I think that forever stands. It's like the worst conversation.
Well, especially because he like won't have sex with her because he'll hurt her until they get married. Like that. Even when I was like a fundamentalist, I was like, this doesn't seem great. This doesn't seem like a great message.
Reading those books, and I'm in like middle school, and like she's talking about how this baby's trying to rip her from the inside out, but then she's like, I love it, I'm not getting rid of it. I'm like, it's trying to destroy your entire body. Like,
yeah,
I cannot.
Oh my God. Also, can I just say that every World Hopper video I've been on with Joshana has ended up in a rant about this book from Sarah J. Maas.
Listen, I didn't even bring it up
You
this
didn't
time.
even bring it up this time.
I didn't.
It's just such easy, low hanging.
I just bring the energy.
Yeah, exactly. People know it's a safe space to rant about that book with you.
Listen, the amount of young adult authors transitioning to adult who are not doing a great job of it the past couple years is very high.
Yeah.
This is probably problematic, but like the biggest scammer right now is Almond Trout for me. So
That is a spicy take.
As an art, I got that book as an art from Blood and Ash, and I gave it 2 stars. And then like it got really popular, and so all my friends were like, "How did you give it 2 stars?" But then everyone was disappointed by like the third one.
Yeah,
and so I'm like, now you guys see what I was.
Yeah, man.
It's always been there from the beginning.
I thought it was fine, but as time went on, I got more mad about it because I was like, I can't believe this is what people are loving in fantasy romance. There's so many better fantasy romances out there. Like it was more like, I don't know, on principle that it bothered me because I was like, this is just standard. It's whatever. It's fine.
It's okay. Yeah. Have you guys read it?
I just feel that a lot in my favorite genres whenever something is super popular.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm staying away from popular fantasy romances because I hate it Crave. I hate it from Blood and Ash. I hate it Silver Flame. So like if it's popular, I'm not going anywhere near it because I thought Crave was from Amazon for $6. And I was like, this book just came out, but it's on Amazon for $6. I got my $6 back.
Like, no.
You need to read some Ruby Dixon. Like, just come join me in the world of campiness where it's self-aware. Like, she gets that we're trying to just have fun. That's the whole point of a Ruby Dixon.
That's how I liked the first book from Blood and Ash. I was like, this is fun. Like, it was just like standard. I was like, the world building is a hot mess, but like, I'm here for the ride. It's cool.
To be fair, if I'm gonna be honest, last year I read a lot of paranormal romances like Sheridan Kenyon and Alona Andrews. So like, I was putting them against like, can we go back to paranormal romance?
Okay, yeah. If you've been reading Alona Andrews and then you get some Jennifer L. Trout, you're gonna be like, oh, okay.
What? Like this new wave of like, can we go back to paranormal? For me, let's go back to the old days where everything was like vampire and like goth and fun because I can't do this.
Yeah, I just want to have fun. Like I don't know. And different people want different things from books, but for me, for any kind of speculative romance, it's like, I don't need you to be serious in this book. Like, I don't need you to be angsting about how you have a blood boner for this random woman. I just want to have fun. Like, I don't need there to be stakes. I think that you should just embrace the fact that this is kind of wacky and just have fun with it. Like, that's what I'm personally looking for. I know that's not what everyone is looking for.
No.
So.
I also read the Fever books last year too, and I had a really great time with the Fever books. So maybe,
Are those the Karen Marie Moaning ones?
Mm-hmm. Moaning,
okay.
yeah. And
I've never read those.
They have a really huge fan base, the Fever books. Like, people really love those books.
Okay.
And
well,
so,
we'll have to grab one.
I had a good time. I read it in 2021, and I think it dropped in like 2004. So, like, I had a fantastic time. But I think that I was too nostalgic for the good old days to read Crave.
It's like, I love like the Suki Stackhouse ones. Like, they're not good, but they're just fun. Like, I miss that time. Just like,
I miss the time when Joshana was reading them on her channel.
I do still have the first 4 because those ones I was like, they're still, I see the issues, but like they were fun times.
Even
and I
when
have
Bill
the nostalgia.
S.A.'s her?
What?
Even when Bill S.A.'s her? That's like my least favorite part of the original.
There's so much in all of the books that's garbage. Man, someone recently commented on one of those videos, the Suki's the worst. I'm like, the literal title of the video is Why Suki is the Worst, part 1 and 2. and they clicked on this video and they're like, "You're disgusting and an idiot. She's amazing and we love her. LOL. What a dumb idiot you are." And I was like, "Do you feel better now?" Yelling at a random stranger.
I mean, look, this is a series where literally what's his face? Eric forgets who he is so that there's a reason for her to bang him for an entire book. Like, that's the entire, like, these are not, like,
Eric Northman for life.
Yeah.
I don't know. That, like, reading the Fever books and the Sherilyn Kenyon books, during that time period where we were doing the paranormal fantasies, they were all from the South. And so they're all set in New Orleans or Louisiana. And so I tried to listen to the Fever books on audio, and it was way too Sookie Stackhouse for me. And so, like, I had to read all of those books physically because I'm like, I literally cannot go back to, like, the Northern Georgia, Peach and Belle. And it was just, like, too much for me. But I did remember that, like, wow, in, like, 2005, all of the vampire books were set in, like, New Orleans. And that was the whole vibe.
Very casually, like, racist, very casual. Yeah, it was a whole. You gotta just decide that's not gonna bother you to read these books because, like, that's just the vibe.
It was.
Yeah, you have to keep that in mind. So if anyone wants to pick up those books, don't do the audio if you don't like Sookie's accent, because all of those books all have, like, the very country accent.
Country bumpkin southern accent.
And well, kind of going back to, like, stats for a second, I did look at mine, and my third most read genre this year is romance, which has never happened before.
Oh, wow.
Because I've got you into some side changeling action.
Yeah, now. So unfortunately, two of them were Sarah J. Maas, but the other ones I've really liked.
Unfortunately, too.
So do you like slow burn or?
I mean, I'm pretty basic. I like fake dating. I like grumpy sunshine. Like, I'm a pretty basic human being. I don't mind an alpha male. It's fine.
In speculative, I'm okay with it because it's like
in speculative usually.
I mean, like, they're fairies. Who? I mean, what world are we living in here? Like,
but no, I just read the third book last weekend when I was sick. I was doing a puzzle while I listened to it.
Nice.
Did you like it?
I want to continue.
I did, but I'm a weirdo. I still like Visions of Heat the most. I don't know.
Wow. Okay, Judd is, like, considered to be one of the best heroes in that series.
I mean, I don't know. I think my order right now is Visions of Heat, Caressed by Ice, and then the first one, Slave to Sensation or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I need to warn you because the next two books do have very alphaness in them. Like, it hasn't aged necessarily that well, but the macro plot is still great. So, like, just hang in there because
I just really like the audiobook narrator. I can, like,
I've heard that, yeah.
Well, so what I've learned, and I always knew this because people who read romance read so many books on BookTube. I'm like, oh, because you can read these in a day.
Romance readers, like, I read 117 books this month, and I'm like, how?
Yeah,
they just, like, read a book a day because I did that.
117.
I'm not reading deep literature here, guys. I'm reading a blue alien banging some random girl from, like, you know, Nebraska on a different planet. Like, it doesn't take that long.
I think you need patience to watch a romance reader's end of the year wrap up because, like, they be in the thousands with they read for the year, and I'm like,
can't do it.
Blur. Like, I can't. I don't read a lot of mystery, but, like, at one point, it all seemed to, like, kind of merge together into, like, one big, like, they all had the same tropes, I guess. And so, like, I had to take a break from it. But I wonder if it's like that for romance. Like, do they all just kind of seem to be the same ebbs and flows at one point?
I don't understand how people only read romance. Like, I love romance, but, like, I love it as a palate cleanser. Like, it and mystery are my two, like, comfort genres. So it's like, okay, I just finished a Robin Hobb. Let's read about an orc. Like, that sounds great. Like, an orc falling in love with some lady. That sounds great.
Yeah.
But I couldn't read only that because it is so trope-tastic that you would just get, for me, I would get tired.
Yeah.
Mara, your cat's being adorable.
I know, playing
I
on the background.
He's
like, boop, boop, boop,
this is one of their favorite games is to, like, hit their mouse under the door and then onto the other side. Just an infinite loop. Yeah.
No, I really like romance. And I think it's just I used to consume it in different media, like TV or movies and things. Like, I watched Bridgerton season 1 and 2, and I love both seasons. They're both very different trope stuff, but I like them both.
Yeah.
I don't watch
It's fun. And it's nice, especially in these days of darkness. Sometimes it's just nice to know that, you know, these 2 or 3 or 4 crazy kids are all just going to make it work together.
I think, like, what's hardest for me to find is that I truly actually really like a strong romance plot in a different genre, like whatever genre it is, but it has but not like, it's not like a plot B, or it's not a romance book. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but like,
have you read Alona Andrews yet?
I don't think so, but I'm curious. I think my stepdad has, because I think those books are on his shelf, and
they're really good. I think
those, like Sherilyn Kenyon, Monning, and Alona Andrews are the 3 authors that they're still writing books almost every other year and putting them out, and like they have a huge fan base that are like, they've been fans for 20 years of these authors. So
well, I don't even know how many Nalini Singh I have. That's like what I have on the back burner is my like, I don't know what I'm doing right now for a while.
Like 19 or something?
You've got like 16 more to go.
Oh, wow. So give me a couple years. Maybe I'll finish at the same time I finish Wheel of Time. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, when you're you could also go on to the Archangel series or the Guild Hunter series from Nalini Singh, or you could go to Alona Andrews, who I think is as good in terms of the writing. Because like if like what you're saying in terms of like having both like a real fantasy plot and the romance. Yeah.
Read the
There's
Mages
one
of
more
the Wheel.
author. Is it JD or something like that?
JD Robb?
JD Robb.
Oh, not JD Robb. I was thinking of a different book that I thought.
That's Nora Roberts under her.
Yeah. I'm talking about JD Evans.
Yeah, no, so that's on my patrons are voting for my book for the buddy read in August, and that's one of them. And I kind of hope they pick it because so many people, like both you and Leanna, didn't hate that book.
Yeah, I really liked the first one a fair amount, and then I really liked the second one. I have the third one. I haven't started it yet.
Let me look at this poll. Is it still?
There's going to be 5 books, I think, or 6. I don't know.
Yeah, Rain and Ruin's the first one, right?
It's like, yeah, but it has like, it's like the fantasy, politics, world building. Ooh, stuff's going on with the magic, and we have to do things. But then, yeah, we have like, oh, we're such deep, passionate love for each other. We found our mates or whatever. Not mates. Yeah. They're not like fantastic.
Because like 2 of my favorite like romantic situations are not romance books, and that's Nettle and Bone and The Best of All Possible Worlds. Like I'd never market them to a romance reader to read because it's not going to hit the same pacing points that one is expecting. But like I really love them, and it's because they're really well paired, or they naturally develop alongside the plot.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm telling you, Mages of the Wheel. I love it.
Who writes Mages of the Wheel?
JD Evans. That's the ones I was just talking about.
The
Rain and
the one that I'm like hoping to be forced to read.
Anyway, sorry, Deshauna, we've gone very far afield from your dated topics.
I kind of always figure it's gonna happen because we just start chatting about it.
You want us to talk about?
I don't think so. I don't know. I just thought it'd be a nice little check-in thing.
I think I'm doing.
Does everyone feel pretty good about their goals and their stats through the year? I'm not reading very much this year compared to other years. I haven't been like in a full-on reading slump, I wouldn't say, but I've been like, maybe a slump. I don't know. I have been reading just very slowly, and like, especially like March and April, I was just like not really getting like gripped by very much. Recently, I've started like getting back into it where I'm like reading more, but I was reading like 4 or 5 books a month and like just not doing a lot, but I feel pretty good about it. I'll still hit my like 50 books, so whatever.
I'm doing fine. I think I read too much the first half of the year, but such is life. I think because I'm at right now, we're not even halfway through the year at 68 books, which for me is a lot.
Nice.
So, yeah. Because I mean, so obviously everyone reads more when they first join BookTube. That's like a pretty consistent trend. You join BookTube and suddenly being able to read more is more of a priority, and so you get to read more. But I thought that would like taper off, especially when like you didn't have to be in lockdown anymore and you could go out and like. I just keep reading more each year, and I don't know how this is sustainable. I'm just like,
I did not have that problem. Yeah, I went hard out of the gate, and then was like, I need to pump it.
Well, you're allergic to obligations. I'm the opposite.
I am allergic to obligations. So like, no, because I was doing like a lot of readathons the first couple years, and then I was just like, no, I don't know, we're done.
But I feel good.
I'm pretty okay.
Yeah.
The only thing I need, like, for, like, so I was looking at, because I keep track of the continents, because since my goal is for non-US authors, I've been keeping track of continents and countries. And it's a very strict basic rule of were they born in this country? Like, I'm not trying to, like, keep track of the diaspora or something like that. Like, I'm not, I don't know. But I don't have anyone in Africa at all yet. So I need to pick up some of the authors I have on my TBR. Because because I have a few from like Cambodia, and I have Nigeria, which does have Son of the Storm. Yeah, I do have that.
Cambodia is Asia.
Oh, not Cambodia. What's the C one I'm thinking of?
Cameroon?
Yes, Cameroon. I have Half a King by it's an indie author. I have that on my Kindle. And I don't have any South American, so I probably have to read a translated Argentinian book I've had on my TBR.
Yeah.
But it's so hard. South America does not write in my genre very often. It's really hard. Like they write literary.
They're mostly like magical realism.
Yeah, that's I
like, and also it's usually the
literary
diaspora that writes what I like from South America. It's not usually like there are not people like in Venezuela writing high fantasy, epic fantasy books. That's not what they're writing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
gotcha. For a second, I was going to say
a little more YA or a little more middle grade, but YA has been so disappointing for me lately that like I'm okay if I don't make my way around to that.
I'm supposed to read 6 middle grades this year. I've read 1, so there's still a chance.
Yeah.
Read T.J. Young and the Orishas.
Well, I need to read. I've been forcing myself to read a Percy Jackson every year because it's my siblings' favorite series, and I figure, well, if I read one every year, which is probably how they were published, I won't get burnt out because they're a little formulaic for me, which is my issue with middle grade because not all middle grades formulaic, but it's like any genre, it has a certain like frame to it, you know.
But it's for me, it's comfort reading. So like, I guess that's the frame in which I engage it with of like, yeah, this feels just cozy and lovely. Like this is what I was expecting.
I just haven't read middle grade since I was a middle grader. Like I think I've gradually just always been with my age group, and then I didn't realize you could stay in young adult, and I just like left. Like it wasn't an active choice. I just
I realized that I find myself like annoyed with YA characters because I feel like I've just aged out and like teenagers annoy me. And so I'm like, that's why I don't pick it up very much anymore. Cause I'm like, I know I have this mindset of like, I'm not going to have a good time reading this book probably because these characters are going to just annoy me because they're acting like teenagers, which they're supposed to. And that's fine. So I'm just like, I'll just mostly stay away from it. Cause I don't want to be out here like reading a bunch of YA and then being all negative about it when it's like, I'm just being negative because teenagers annoy me.
So I don't read a lot of YA, so sometimes I'll read a YA and really like it, and everyone else thinks it's so derivative and hate it because like I'm just not as used to all of the things. Like that happened with me with We Hunt the Stars. I really like that, and a lot of people don't really like that one. I love Incendiary and Illusionary. I really like the Gilded Ones. A lot of people
I like that too. I pre-ordered the Merciless ones.
I was thinking of the Gilded Wolves because people hate that book.
No, the Gilded Ones, where a lot of people complain that it's insta-lovey and it's too young, and I'm like, this woman's 14 and she's acting exactly how I did when I was 14. And
I don't, in general, I just have a lot of space for teenagers being teenagers. Also, if it was an adult doing it, I would hate it and it would annoy me. But I'm like, you've got a lot of hormones going on. Like this checks out.
I mean, and I guess maybe if you've never experienced dumb insta-love lust in real life, I could see maybe it being very unbelievable. But like, I have completely fallen in love with someone in a week. Like, I have done that. I
was like, I was that teenager girl that was just like, I just want a boyfriend so bad. I'm in love with love. Like, oh my God.
So I was all melodrama, all angst, all the time. Like, and I'm not that anymore. And it's so... Sometimes when I go there, I have to reread the old ones because that's all I want is the nostalgia. I don't want new. And that's how I am with music now, too. I feel so old. I can't find new music I relate to because I don't have the angst anymore.
I don't know. I think I'm just young at heart, I guess, because I'm on TikTok like, yes, I love this new song. And then I keep expecting to get to that point, and I just haven't yet.
I mean, I'm envious, but I'm also not on TikTok because I think I've been 37 since I was 23. So I just given up.
That's too funny. Yeah, I still find YA sometimes that like really clicks with me, but sometimes I'm just like, I learned a long time ago contemporary. No, just can't do contemporary YA because like you're now having like real life teenager conversations and problems. And like, like my cousin who's a teenager, I'm hanging around like him and his friends. I'm like, oh my God, I can't. You're all so dumb. You sound stupid. Another reason Deshauna has decided she probably doesn't need to have children ever. Get to that age where I'll just be like, oh, leave me alone. You're stupid. But I try to read. I've tried reading some middle grade over the years, but it's kind of a similar thing where I feel like I have to be like in exactly the right like mindset mood, because otherwise I'll be like I just have to come to it with a very like understanding of what it is and not be annoyed.
And I could have said I've read 3 middle grades if I count the Up and Under books by Shauna Maguire, but I don't know if those technically count as middle grade because I think they're published for adults, but they're meant to be in-world kid books. So I don't, and they read like kid books, but I don't know technically because I don't think
That
they're
is a good point.
Well, they're not going to be shelved in the middle grade section. I don't think. I think they are. It's only Tor.com, which I don't think has a middle grade imprint. And so it's published for like, $20 some per freaking novella. And
Stupid. I almost got Nettle and Bone the other day.
It's so pretty. I bought myself
$26 for this little tiny novella, and I was like,
it's totally worth. It's not a novella. It's 260 pages. That's not a novella.
It looks small.
It's not a novella.
It looked very small to me, and I was like, I don't think I.
But it has a foil bone dog on it. And did you see the end pages?
I don't think I opened it.
Angela's like selling it to you right now.
I'm just saying,
I just saw the price and was like,
$20.
Okay, so I got it as a graduation present. I made my family buy it for me. But I almost got the UK one because I like the UK's cover more. But the UK's hardback just doesn't have any of the other production values. Like I said, it has like the gold foil of a very important character and these stunning end pages. And I love Nettle and Bone. It's a comfort read. That's like I said, it has like a romance that like honestly is the most slow burn romance in the world. It doesn't even really end in a kiss or anything, but it's the most satisfying romance I've read in a very long time.
I love slow burn. I'm reading a Mariana Zapata right now, and it's so slow it's not even burning. Not even.
I love Mariana Zapata. I know she's not for everyone, but like nothing happens for hundreds of pages, and for some reason I cannot put it down.
And nothing at 81%.
Which one are you reading?
All Roads Lead Here.
Oh, I haven't read that one yet. I've
read
two that I've like banked.
And they didn't even like kiss until 10 pages before the book ended.
Oh, I
know.
loved it. I know. I loved it.
I loved everything.
I think that's like one of her better ones. I think it's so good.
I think it's like 900 pages. And I can't believe I had 900 pages in me of a romance when nothing was even happening. But nothing is
happening. And yet you can't stop reading. And I don't know. It's some kind of crazy magic she puts into those books. But I'm right there with you. I'm like, oh, we've got some meaningful eye contact. This is a big chapter.
That's awesome. I love those like little things where you are comforted as a reader of like kind of knowing, oh, they have to end up together. I think I have enough faith that will happen. Yeah. But like just like watching it slowly develop, like
Mariana will make you forget that this was supposed to be a romance book. Like you will forget like.
So why are you reading it? Like I know you say you can't put it down, but what is it?
So like.
It's so
she gives her characters like a full story. So like they have real stuff. So like it reads like a contemporary. But when you get towards the end of the book, like you start to feel the theme and you're like, oh, this was a romance from the beginning. But I think that if you don't like her main character, like From Look Off with Love is really popular, but I hated the main character. So
I didn't hate her, but I didn't like him that much. It's fine. Like I liked it okay, but it wasn't. Everybody loves that one. What's this author's name again?
Mariana Zapata.
Oh, Mariana.
It's so good. The Wall of Winnipeg and Me is where I would tell people to start because I think that's her most popular one. But I love Culty. Have you read that one yet, Monet?
I own Culty, but I've only read From Look Off with Love. I read Wait For It, and now I'm at the end of All Roads Lead Here. So those are the 3.
You haven't even read Wall of Winnipeg and Me?
I own that one.
You got it. Okay,
what are these covers?
Culty is great, but
I can so tell I'm outside of my comfort zone. I don't know what marketing is doing with these covers. I'm like trying to figure out.
She's indie. She's self-published.
Okay.
Yeah. She's really and she doesn't get edited.
And popular self-published author.
Yeah.
Like
I like her picture. Her author picture is very nice.
Yeah, she has Great Danes. She puts them on Instagram.
Oh, she has Great Danes.
Yeah. But you can tell that this is a book that could never be published by a traditional publisher because every traditional publisher would edit out what makes her books great, which is that like nothing's happening. And yet for some reason you can't I literally just clear a day when I read these books. I just read it all day.
They didn't even listen to the end. I was like, an editor would chop this book into pieces.
and it would ruin it. Yes. Like they don't. Really it's like Yeah, it's not. They're not. I wouldn't describe them as well written, but they are addictive. To me, Allie Hazelwood is the like closest thing you could get in traditional publishing to what Mariana Zapata is doing. It's like got that kind of like fan fiction-y, like crackalicious, can't like, I don't know why I like this, but I can't stop reading it. Like, ugh, I love it.
Every time my husband sees me holding, because her books are all chunky, and he's like, "That's a romance book. Why is it so big? They're huge." But
like, I don't know.
This is The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. It's literally
so long. Wait for it is so chunky. And you just
which one do you recommend to me specifically?
Everyone starts with the Wall of Winnipeg and Me, or from Lukov with Love.
Yeah, I would say like, she does lots of sports romance. So like, Wall of Winnipeg and Me is a football dude is the hero, and then Culty it's a soccer romance.
And Lukov is ice skating.
And Lukov is ice skating.
But with Wait For It, it's about a sister who her brother passed and she's raising his sons. And then All Roads Lead Here is about a woman who recently like got a divorce. And so she's like going back home to find herself. So like she has other books that aren't like sports related. So it's up to you if you want to read.
You know what? You like fake dating though, Angela. So this would be good because he's Canadian and she's his former assistant. And
you're saying a book with Winnipeg in the title has a Canadian?
I know, right? And he asks her to marry him so that he can get his green card. So they're in a marriage of convenience.
Oh, I do love a marriage. I put that one as to read. I like sports media. I don't hate sports. I love a sports movie because it only shows you the best parts.
I'm like, I need to go back and reread this because it's been a while. And God, I love this book so much. I can't even tell you.
Well, you let me know when you get that itch. Maybe I'll get it and we'll buddy read it or something.
I mean,
gosh, just like anytime.
Maybe it's time. Mona, you're making me think because I've been banking her new releases because she doesn't release that many because they're 900 pages.
They're long.
So I've got like 2 or 3 I've not read yet, and now I'm thinking maybe it's time to tap into my backlog.
She's been recently publishing once in every year and a half or a year, according to this.
Yeah, she does like once a year, but most of my indie romance authors, they're like
Ruby's got a new one every month. Spoiled you guys are in romance and fantasy. You get one a year. That's like
sometimes every 2 years.
Ruby's getting me 1 or 2 a month. Like,
oh man,
and that's not what I'm used to in my genres. No,
no. Like if you like a grumpy sunshine, you could try K.A. Tucker, The Simple Wild. They're really snarky, and it's a grumpy sunshine kind of. It's also set in Canada.
That's like another.
Or Alaska.
Have you guys watched Ted Lasso, the show?
Not yet.
Ted Lasso.
Well, so there's a character in it who's the definition of like my ideal grumpy sunshine hero, Roy Canada, or whatever. Not Roy Canada, but his name is. He's a soccer player in it. But he's like, I love him so much.
Yeah, if you find a book that has a Roy character, that type of grump, let me know so I can buy it.
He's like my favorite thing. He's so sweet, but also just can't stop swearing and is just like so angry all the time.
Love it. I want to watch that. I haven't started it yet though.
I really liked it. I'll watch it around Christmas. I think it's a good Christmas show.
It's good for your health.
Interesting.
It's really
interesting. Well, it does have a Christmas episode in season 2. So for sure, season 2, if you want to like be thematically around the time of an episode.
Nice. I'll check it out. Well, we sufficiently got derailed, which always happens. I'm happy. I'm fine with it. But we can probably end now, I suppose. We're well over an hour, so everyone's gonna be watching this video like, where were the stats? It's fine. Whatever. I don't care. We're just here to hang out and talk,
This is how we handle our goals. We adjust, we adapt, we move forward.
And we talk about other stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
My goal was to have fun with you guys this afternoon. And I feel like I met that goal. So we're good.
I feel like we talked about a lot of interesting things very briefly.
Yeah.
Yes.
We always were talking about books, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
We totally were.
But we also
See,
said
we
in the
were on
beginning that,
topic.
we weren't strict. So like this is just proof that we're really not strict with our goals.
Yes.
Because we couldn't even stick
Exactly.
with the goals for
And,
this.
like, and I set goals.
Yeah,
and
we
I
didn't
check in with
stick with our goal to talk about goals. That's exactly right, Monet.
But that's what I do with my real life goals too. I pivot. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not a
working
New
for
Year's
me, we're gonna
resolution
change
set
it.
in stone girl. I'm like, I guess it'd be nice if I did yoga every week, but we'll come back to that.
I wish I was a New Year's resolution kind of girl. I change on any random Tuesday. It doesn't even have to be the top of the year. I'm just like, oh, today I'm never going to do this again. So yeah, I don't ever have New Year's resolution.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us, guys.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I'll talk to you guys soon. And everyone leave comments. Let us know how you feel about goals and stats and all the things and whatever else we talked about. If you have thoughts
Who's
on
your
that
favorite paranormal romance
Yeah,
author?
exactly. What's your favorite Mariana Zapata?
And a problematic book that you read. This is a safe place.
Yeah.
And if you made it this far,
Yes.
I'm going to tell you the problematic book we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
We were talking about American Dirt. So if you made it this far, you get
Yes,
this
there you
information.
go.
Yes.
You're welcome. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys. And we will talk to you later.